Nadia.
Nadia is a goddess.
Your voice is absolutely unbelievable. You have a God-given gift.
Very kind.
It's like the room vibrates. It's an incredible sound. We mortals cannot get there.
That's magical.
She's freaking amazing.
Good evening, everyone. Yo soy Maria. I'm gonna get you all to sing along in this next one. Ladies. Amazing. E cantare. Gentlemen, come on. Whoa, key change. All the shine of 1,000 spotlights. All the stars we steal from the night sky will never be known. The phantom of the opera is here inside my mind. Leave all thoughts of the life you knew before. Close your eyes, let your spirit start to soar. I can feel my friend. So let's go.
Welcome, everyone, to another podcast. So happy that you're here to join us. I'm going to introduce Amy Sawyer again, all the way from Norway. She's my co-host for this special episode with Nadia Eide. She's a chart-topping classical crossover coloratura soprano whose powerful vocals and stratospheric range have mesmerized audiences worldwide. Originally from Norway and Sweden, I totally forgot about that. You're actually from Norway and Sweden, which is interesting. Now, Nadia has gained international recognition as the only classical singer on The Voice UK, captivating both coaches and viewers with her stunning performances. And as a finalist on Team will.i.am, Nadia has carved out a unique space in industry, blending operatic mastery with cinematic and contemporary influences. Her journey has taken her across the globe, gracing opera houses, concert stages, and major venues, or venues, with her breathtaking artistry. Each performance is not just a musical showcase, but an emotional experience that resonates deeply with audience. And it does. And I love your voice. And I checked out all your music again. Beautiful. Excellent.
Wow, that's quite an intro. Thank you very much.
So beyond Nadia's vocal prowess, Nadia is a dedicated advocate for sustainability, and young musical talent. Your Winter Lights tour helped plant thousands of trees, and you continually foster new generations of musicians by integrating them into your performances. I think you still do that.
Yes.
So Nadia's critically acclaimed album Reimagined, reaching the top of the classical chart, Nadia Eide is defining the classical crossover genre and solidifying her legacy as one of the most extraordinary voices of our time.
Who were your musical inspirations early on, and how do they compare to the artists who inspire you now as a classical crossover star?
Oh gosh. So, I mean, it's a funny thing because I grew up in a family, I have a big family, and my parents met in a rock band in the 70s. So they actually had no kind of knowledge of classical music at all. And so the way I was kind of exposed to this sort of music was my mum, who in the 70s, you didn't really have singing lessons. She was kind of leading the rock band and used to sing all sorts of different styles all over the place. They used to tour all over Europe with our band. And the one thing she said she wanted for me was because she could tell I could sing, but I was very shy growing up. So she thought, oh, well, I'll give her singing lessons because that's the technique I never got kind of growing up. Um, which is amazing because then they discovered my voice sat quite high, which is funny as well because my mum's voice sits quite low. Um, and so, yeah, so my teachers were the ones who introduced me to a lot of classical music, a lot of musical theater, particularly. And one of my sisters actually was a big fan of musicals of Andrew Lloyd Webber and the music of Sarah Brightman. So she used to play a bit of that. And that's how I kind of came across Sarah Brightman. And growing up, I was more into dance and gymnastics, but I used to choreograph extensive routines and make my family sit and watch it in the living room, and had to pay to come and watch me perform these extensive choreographies to the music
Wow.
of Sarah Brightman. And it's incredible because I never thought I'd be singing stuff like that, material like that. But slowly but surely, your voice grows and grows. And I, coming as a shy child into the world of drama, I started drama lessons, and then the singing kind of just grew from that. And I think so. The artists like Sarah Brightman really inspired me from the start. I remember the early years of just listening to. I listened to a lot of musicals, a lot of albums and things I had. I went to the music, we had like a music shop in our local town in Norway, and it just had all these compilations of different musical songs. I bought them all and I would listen to them until they were completely worn out. Just learned every single little note and every word and all the roles, even the male roles. I would sit and sing all of it. I just loved it. I loved the drama. I loved the storytelling. I loved everything that was drawn to. So I would say my influences been all sorts, but in particular, I would say Sarah Brightman. Like nowadays, I think singers like, well, Andrea Bocelli and things, they're still around, and they're still kind of the ones that, the big stars that are around still now, I guess. I do like Il Divo. I think they're fantastic. I love the arrangements they do. And yeah, things like that. But there aren't that many big classical crossover stars. There should be more. Because it's such a big style of music, and so many people enjoy it. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Can you explain to people exactly? I know I asked you this before, but what is a coloratura soprano, and how did you know that was your tonal range?
Okay, so a coloratura soprano, it's basically just means like you're showing off. You're doing all the riffs. You're doing all the high notes, the stratospheric stuff, the twiddly bits. It's kind of vocal gymnastics, really. And there are different styles of soprano. There could be like a lyric soprano. You can still have quite a lot of range, but you sing more light lyrical stuff. And you've got dramatic sopranos, which are more kind of richer toned and sit a little bit lower, perhaps. But coloratura sopranos, we tend to do all the really high stuff, but also all the vocal gymnastics. So that's what
So,
that means.
so what about contraltos? Like, what's the difference between them and coloratura sopranos?
So that would be an alto, and a
Okay.
contralto in particular has a very low alto voice. So they would sing roles like Katusha in The Mikado and things like that. The kind of the evil stepmother roles, and stuff like that. So it's a voice that sits very low, almost like sounds quite masculine sometimes, but they can still have range. I know some contraltos who have had incredible soprano ranges too, but it's where your voice naturally wants to sit, and that's how you kind of get labeled. Not so much your actual range, but where your voice comfortably sits.
Yeah, I think Anastasia Lee is a contralto. I'm not sure. But they're
Okay,
really
yeah.
low. I've heard a female sing really low, and I'm like, let me guess, you're contralto, right? It's like amazing. And I've
Mm.
actually, I don't know if you believe this, but you probably do, but I've heard a male soprano. Like, it's
Yes,
incredible.
yeah,
Yeah.
like a
Um.
countertenor. Mm.
Yeah. Exactly. So when you're talking about drama, did you ever want to get actually to be like an actress in movies? Or are you talking about drama like in musical theater?
Oh no, in theater. I was never really that interested in TV and film. It's funny because when I went to drama school, that was one thing they said to me. They said, "Oh, you look really good on screen, and you should kind of think about that." And I was like, "Oh, well, I think my heart lies in live theater and live performance where you can see an audience, you can connect to them, and there's just something magical when everything's live." And anything can happen, and it's just there in the moment, and you can the smell of the theater, and just there's an electricity that you get, that I mean, I haven't been on many film sets, but it seems to me like a long day in the office where they film for hours and hours and hours, and I don't think I have that kind of endurance. I like just being on stage and be able to connect to the audience in that way.
So you think you could ever do Christina Dene, Phantom of the Opera, or maybe sing a version of Nessun Dorma like Lucy Kay did, even though it's the male part of the Turandot Puccini?
Yeah, I have done that, both those things already. So yeah, and that was fun.
That's awesome. So your voice effortlessly bridges classical and contemporary worlds. How do you approach blending these influences?
I like to look at what the audience likes. Ultimately, it's for the audience. So I want people who come to my shows not to just be hardcore classical fans, but you get women who enjoy the music, classical music, and then they drag along their husbands, and they think, oh no, I'm going to be sitting here listening to an opera singer for 2 hours, but they're actually completely changed at the end of it, and
Hmm.
that's what I'm about. It's about celebrating good music, really, and ultimately, so I choose songs that people know and love. Perhaps I pick songs that are well written, that have a good structure, and that can work well as a reimagined piece, because
Hmm.
not everything works as a class with a classical twist to it, but it's nice to give something back in that sense, that people feel comfortable, even if they're broaching something in a new way.
Being the only classical singer on The Voice UK and reaching the final with the team will.i.am must have been thrilling. What's it like being a classical crossover to a mainstream stage?
Right. So I was the only classical singer that year, so not ever in time, because I know a
Mm-hmm.
few classical friends of mine who have been on the show before me, and probably many to come. But that year I was the only one. And it was intimidating in a way, because I know that classical crossover isn't a kind of popular enough genre yet. It's not in the mainstream media, and I was so lucky to work with will.i.am, and that was one thing we discussed a lot. It's like we actually said this is a genre that should be more popular. It should be as popular as pop music and rock and everything like that, but for some reason it's not. And so that's why it is quite intimidating going and being part of a show like that, especially on that team where the singers were incredible. The caliber was so high, and that we had an incredible amount of talent to write their own music and things like that. And I don't do anything like that, so I was just surrounded by incredible artists. So I felt, yeah, it was a fantastic process to be a part of. I never dreamed I would get so far, just because everyone else was so talented.
So growing up in Scandinavia, how did cultural background influence your love of music and your path as a coloratura soprano?
Right. So, especially Norway, where I kind of mainly grew up, um, and where I studied music, um, it's just such a beautiful country, and the Norwegian nature continues to inspire me. I'm actually in Norway now doing shows, um, but like I when I every time I travel here and I see the mountains, I just think, God, I just want to sit and write, or just want to sit and sing a song or something. There's something in the air that just really inspires me. So growing up, that was a huge part of inspiring me to kind of go into the arts, because it's not an easy life, but it certainly kind of the drama of the music of Grieg and all these. Like every Sunday, I would play classical Scandinavian composers. We have breakfast, my poor kids. But I want to introduce them to that world, that music, that's so important to me. So yeah, that it definitely has influenced me growing up in Norway. It's definitely influenced me going into the industry and approach maybe a more classical technique in that sense.
So you're in Oslo?
I'm in right now. I'm in Stavanger, which is on the
Yeah.
west coast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
Oh yeah.
It's awesome. So, Nadia, what was the most defining moment in your musical journey that cemented your path in classical crossover?
I would say it was probably going on The Voice. Like I've been working as a singer for many, many years. I've been doing a lot of theater. I've been doing a lot of operas and operettas, and I started doing my own concerts shortly before that. And it was actually going in and putting it out there in that sense on such a big stage was very scary as well as being incredibly rewarding because I thought, this could go either way. It could either be that everything I've been doing maybe should just stay in the shadows, or I can just continue this nice path that I'm on and live a comfortable life and not have people, because when you put yourself out, it's very different these in this day and age. There's social media, there's all this stuff, and so if you do a bad audition, it's on there forever and people rip you to
Yeah.
shreds, or like, why is she singing that? So it was scary going on there and suddenly putting myself out there on such a big stage. But it was incredibly rewarding in that sense that it went so well. So I feel like it was such a good gamble.
So
Yeah.
yeah, they don't have any right to rip you apart. I mean, we all evolve in those. You're better than you were a year ago, and you're even better than you were 10 years ago. So
Yeah.
every year you get better and better.
Your album Reimagined focuses on transforming well-known songs into classical epic cinematic style. Can you discuss the creative process of selecting the songs for this album and what qualifies popular songs that make you think, yes, this could be powerful?
Oh, that's a good question. So this album I made just coming out after The Voice, and I wanted to kind of piece together the same kind of journey I was on during that show. And the great thing I had, and I would say this over and over again to everyone who asks me, but the greatest part of being on that show was having the opportunity to work with this incredible music team who I was like a kid in a candy store where I could tell them this is what I'm imagining in my mind that this song is going to sound like this.
Mhm.
And the arranger would just sit down and he'd work through it and he'd present something. I'd be like, "Ooh, can we change this and this?" And he'd do it. And then I was like, wow. And then we came up with some incredible, powerful pieces. And I thought, well, there's an album in this, and because on there you only do one song kind of per round that you do. So it's only about you come out having done maybe four or five songs in the whole show. If you're lucky enough to get to the final where I was at that stage. And yeah, so but the whole time behind the scenes you're having these meetings and there's so much that happens in between these rounds they're filmed, and these countless meetings on Zoom and things like that. And just chatting with will.i.am about song choices and things like this, and how to sell it, how to package it to people. And yeah, and like going back to what I said before about making classical crossover more mainstream, more kind of popular, it's those kind of choices. It's incredibly hard to find songs that it works, that kind of all gels together. So yeah, coming up with an album after The Voice, I was kind of following on from that idea. So a lot of those songs were actually songs that I had on my list that I didn't use on the show and I still thought would work really well. And yeah, I kind of collaborated with this online orchestra, and we worked through the album, and it was just a really fun way of kind of putting all those songs I didn't use really, and going, oh, here we go. That was my journey on The Voice, and it was all about that. It was reimagining popular songs. Yeah.
Yeah, reimagining popular songs. I remember watching the special Jimmy Page 75th birthday. He's from Led Zeppelin, and a symphony and a choir performed his song "Stairway to Heaven," and it was
Mm.
done beautifully, arranged and everything. Could you take a song, any song, whether it's like Christina Aguilera or Britney Spears, Taylor Swift, whatever, and turn it into a classical coloratura soprano song and make it your own and make it sound good?
I mean, yeah, I guess you could if you have the right arranger. Actually, Stairway
Mm.
to Heaven's been on my list for years. I love that song. And it works really well. It's been done by orchestras many times.
Yeah.
But you'll see it's a very popular thing to do already. You've got orchestras, certainly around the UK, it's very popular to kind of class classify songs, and they get these big orchestras to play um popular music, and you can see like yeah, like Led Zeppelin in concert, and it's just like an orchestra playing all their music, or Queen in concert.
Hmm.
I did a big tour of Europe, with that very thing. So they had a 40-piece orchestra, which is
Wow.
enormous. You don't think about it, but touring a 40-piece orchestra was incredible. And a Queen tribute band, and we toured all of Europe one summer, or over the winter, sorry. And it was incredible. And just hearing all of Queen's music with an orchestra, because you think about Queen, he was all
Hmm.
about the drama. And so his music works really well, for example, as a to transform into classical,
Oh
because it's
yeah.
so dramatic, and it's got all that.
Except one, Bohemian
Which one's that?
Rhapsody.
Oh no, that one works really well.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, that was the big one everyone went crazy for. Yeah, you've got the big orchestra playing, it works incredibly well. And you just
It's
you
my,
just have moments where he just plays the piano. So at the start and the end, he would just sit at the piano and do those pieces, but all the rest of it, the orchestra were playing. It was incredible.
I know when I heard Brendan Urie, he's the Panic at the Disco, when he did a version of Bohemian Rhapsody, I'm like, it's not the same. So I'm thinking
Mm.
like it would be a difficult one to do, but wow, it's amazing what you can do, eh?
So Sarah Vaughan, who we've loved having on the show recently, um, mentioned working with you before she even became an Ida girl, and she's mentioned that you went on a lot of hikes together with her, and that you are the fittest person in the world. How did you two first meet?
That's lovely. Well, oh gosh, we met in an audition, I think. We were auditioning for a group. I can't even remember. It was one of these auditions. Like, you meet people from all over, like in auditions. People are really nice. You sit and you just chat before the audition, because everyone's got a bit of pre-audition nerves, And I think we were auditioning for the same thing. We just got chatting a little bit. So I remembered her from that. And then I I kind of, I don't know. We ended up working together. I recommended her for a duo I was doing. Um, and so we started doing that for a while, like Opera Girls, it was called. And we did a few contracts together. And she's just so lovely. She's a really genuine person, just very, very lovely.
Mhm.
Always got a smile on her face, and she's hilarious. She's very sarcastic too, which works really well for me. I find her hilarious. No, and she is funny, the hiking situation, because I obviously Norwegian, it's in my blood and I just love it. And Sarah got into hiking, I think, because of a partner recently, and she's quite fit. I mean, she does some running and stuff like this, and I just mentioned to her, we were doing a big event actually, in Germany, and and I just got chatting about, like, she was like, "Oh, what are you doing? Like, where are you hiking next? And what's the plan?" I was like, "Well, funnily enough, I'm going to Norway. I want to hike the biggest mountain in Northern Europe." And I booked that, and I tried to get one of my sisters to go with me, but they were all busy and things like this, and it's not really their thing. She's like, "I'll go with you." And I was like, "For real?" And I don't see Sarah that often. We keep in touch via social media, and I thought that was incredibly cool. So she joined me, and we had the best time, and we hiked up she did incredibly well, and it was just such fun that we were like, "Okay, we need to do this again." So we're going to do the three peaks in the UK. So it's the three highest mountains in the UK. But there's a challenge. You have to do them all in 24 hours. So we're doing that in August. So yeah, three mountains in 24 hours. So they basically, you do hike up the highest mountain in Scotland, go down, get in a
Mm-hmm.
car, drive to Wales,
Oh,
which is
yeah.
a few hours through the night,
Oh,
and then you hike up that one early in the morning, get down, drive all the way down to England, and then hike. Yeah.
wow.
So we're going to be exhausted at the end of it, but
Yeah.
it's going to be fun. Yeah.
Was there any chance to
Yeah.
sing, both of you, while you're hiking in unison?
Singing. Oh, we'll probably do some funny videos at some point, I'm sure. But you'll probably see it on social media if you follow any one of us on Instagram or something. I'm sure we're going to post about
TikTok.
it. So yeah.
Nadia's on TikTok, Amy. He's hanging from a
Yeah.
cliff and asking for
Yeah.
help. By the time we get there, you're gone.
Yeah. Love
um,
it.
so yeah, um, from the intimate concerts to grand opera houses, where have you felt the strongest connection with the audience?
You know what? It bigger venues, it's harder to get a sense of the audience, but at the same time, there's such a power in like numbers as well. But I'm really one of those people, like, sometimes you go and sing a gig or sometimes you sing for thousands of people, and people are there calming you down because there's so many thousand people, or you sing on TV like The Voice, and there's like 6 million people watching you, or you sing at a small concert and people go, "Oh, there's not that many people in the audience tonight," but still, I'm like, I don't care. It doesn't matter where I sing. I'm going to give the same performance no matter what. And I think there's a way of connecting with the audience. And I'm so big on that anyway, because ultimately when you think about it, a lot of singers, they've got beautiful voices, and stunning to listen to. And if you put them on a CD and you just enjoy listening to them, but
Mhm.
watching somebody live is a very different thing. And not many people can really connect to an audience. And there's something I always thank my father for, because
Mm.
he's retired now, but he was an incredible drummer. And when he retired from the band, he worked as an MC. He worked with some of the biggest artists in Norway, and he was all about that. And he instilled a lot of that in me growing up. And I didn't really understand it at the time, because I just wanted to do theater and things. And in that way, you don't really sit and connect with an audience because, there's the fourth wall, you're playing a character. But when you go up on stage as yourself, it's a very different thing. And you're essentially, you're there for them. You're there to entertain them, but you're there for me, I want them to feel something. I want them to really connect to the music. It's not just about singing pretty songs. It's about really having an experience. So yeah, I don't know. I went off on a tangent then, but it's different venues. Yeah, it's a challenge no matter what, but there's always a way to connect with the
Yeah,
audience.
yeah, that's right. The group was called X Over or Crossover with Your Dad, and that's not going on anymore.
No, no, no. That crossover was a duo I had with my husband.
Oh, okay, your husband. Okay,
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I did that for a
right.
few years.
Mm.
And we just paused that for the moment because we have little kids, little boys we have to look after. So we used to tour the entire world. We used to be away for months and months on end, but we had to put a pause on that for the
Oh,
moment
that's
when the boys are small. So yeah.
that's amazing. Yeah, we're talking about The Voice UK. So, what do you think was the biggest lesson you learned from that experience? But you and will.i.am is an unconventional pairing. Like, how did that mentorship shape your artistry? That's amazing.
So people say that a lot, and I'm like, yeah, he is the complete opposite to me in every way, but he is also somebody who celebrates that, and that's what I think is so fantastic about him. He was the mentor I wanted, the coach I wanted for that reason. I know he's a producer, so he understands music from a different
Hmm.
point of view. He's not just an artist; he's like an entrepreneur. He does
Mm.
everything. He's got an incredible mind. Um, and yeah, so he celebrates diversity
Mm.
and the differences that people have. And it was like on his team, for example, we had rappers, we had like soul singers, we had gospel singers. We had me, there was all sorts. So it was a real mixed bag. Whereas the other teams would be more like straight pop, or so it all depends on what you could tell just by the people that were chosen by him or who chose him, that he's the right guy for that sort of thing. And he loves classical. He's like Freddie Mercury.
Oh, yeah.
Freddie Mercury used to love Montserrat Caballé. He was like obsessed with her. And I kind of think of will.i.am as the same sort of person or same sort of idea, where he can really appreciate the classical sound and the classical technique. I mean, all of the coaches did. The comments they were, even Tom Jones was saying, all sorts of things, like it's not a genre he knows, but he knows all these opera singers, so he appreciates the technique and
Yeah.
the
Wow.
range, and so to hear stuff like that, I mean, it's so humbling, it's ridiculous. But yeah, no, Will was definitely the right coach for me.
That's amazing.
Okay. Oh, after primarily working as a solo artist, you recently formed a classical crossover trio, Grace, with Natasha Hemmings, Farrell Smith, um, bringing together three sopranos from different backgrounds. What has the experience been like collaborating and harmonizing with other singers in a group setting? And what kind of repertoire are you exploring to blend your unique style?
Love her questions,
So
huh?
yeah, these are great questions. Yeah, so Grace is a new group. It's a kind of a trio, like you say. And Natasha and Farrell have both been very, very successful in their own right. Farrell Smith has been doing all sorts for years and years, and yeah, so we're all very different. We kind of all came together to form this group to try to try something new. And we've been working with a great music team to come up with arrangements for us and things. And it's also the material is very classical. It's very easy listening. It's a little bit softer than the stuff I do normally. So it's nice to be doing something else, to have a little string to my bow. I mean, I used to do groups. That's my background. So
Mhm.
it's different when I've been solo for so many years now. But back in the day I did a lot of groups, so I'm kind of used to that. I'm used to harmonizing, and I like doing that. Keeps your brain going to
Mhm.
sing in harmony instead of just focusing on yourself. So yeah, I mean, it's certainly I would draw from my training in that sense to kind of keep me in check. But they're really nice girls, so I think we sound really good together. So we'll see where it goes. It's still early days, so we've kind of just started. So we'll
Mhm.
see where it takes us in the future.
Oh, yeah, you released the song Follow Me to raise funds for those struggling with lupus, um, inspired by your twin brother. Um, can you share more about the personal significance of this charity work and how music has played a role in supporting your brother and raising awareness of this disease?
Gosh, so yeah, when this was a few years ago, actually, let me think. It was in January of 2020 when this got released. It was just before the
Ah,
COVID pandemic happened.
Mhm.
But I just moved out of London, and I heard that my brother, my twin brother, was very, very ill, and he'd been ill for a while. And he's one of these people who would just take everything in his stride and not want to cause any kind of drama or anything. But we nearly lost him. And so it was an incredibly emotional time. And like, I just remember I had my first son was just a few months old. I think he was about 10 months old at the time. And my husband was away working a lot. So I was just like home alone with this baby. And I was thinking like, oh my God, what am I going to do here in England? And he'd flown back to Norway to be with my parents. And I thought, I've got to do something, I can't just sit here. And, you feel very helpless in those times. Your health, I never take my health for granted. I, I,
yeah.
I love living a healthy lifestyle and everything. And so does he. So it came as a big shock. And also because he's my twin, I feel like we're extra close. Anyway, so we found out he had lupus, and it was quite severe at the time. And at the
Mm.
time, I'd never heard of this disease before. I mean, I think there's more awareness for it nowadays. But I mean, this was 5 years ago, and yeah, I'd never heard of it, and it was incredibly hard. I mean, there are varying degrees of it as well, and I think his had got to the point where they tried so many different ways of trying to heal him that they just said we can't do anything more about this. So he had to go and change doctor and everything just to keep going. So it was a really hard time. So I thought, what am I going to do? And my first plan was to put up a concert for him. I thought, well, nobody's going to know about me and what I do, because at the time, this is way before The Voice. Well, a year or so before I was on The Voice. So I'd never released any music. So I worked with an arranger, came up with a song, picked the song, worked through it, and I released it just to go, hey, I'm raising funds for my brother to help him. He's changing doctor. We need this new course of medicine. Let's raise some funds for him, and also some life costs, some money for his for just for life, for living. And this it just went crazy. People were donating a lot. I think I called it Project Rainbow. And the single went straight to number one in the classical charts and the iTunes
Mm.
charts, and that was the first time I was just like, wow, we got somewhere. Like, people are noticing what we're doing here.
Mhm.
So yeah, that song has always been really. I get emotional singing it sometimes because the words in there, they just work so well for the cause and everything. And so then, yeah, I just wanted to raise awareness for the charity in the UK that deal with this as well. But yeah, it was primarily for my brother.
Um, so your commitment to sustainability has been inspiring. How do you see music as a force for environmental change?
Oh gosh, that's a question. Well, I mean, I feel like everybody does their own part, right? And I think it's raising awareness. I think people are always so used to, well, they're hearing about sustainability,
Mhm.
hearing about, and for me, it's kind of demystifying everything. So what I did with I'm a huge nature lover, so I worked with as an ambassador for this nature charity, environmental charity where I live, called Earth Trust,
Mhm.
and they do incredible work. Um, and I use my Christmas tours, which I produce myself, and I do just to raise awareness for them last year, just but also kind of demystifying everything. So making it easy, breaking it down for people, like what can you actually do when people say, let's look after the environment, blah blah blah. And it seems like such a big thing. Like, what can little old me do about this?
Mhm.
So it's kind of just breaking it down for people and going, look, let's just focus on this, let's do that. You can help me plant a tree. So I said, well, with every ticket that I'm selling, let's plant a tree.
Mhm.
So we ended up planting thousands of trees one year. And we ultimately know that that's going to regenerate things. And so it's doing little things. You don't always have to feel like you need to do these massive, huge projects, because then nothing will ever happen. But if everybody's doing a little bit, it makes a difference. It makes a bigger wave. So that was kind of the way I look at it and go, because if I think about it, there would be so much I would want to do. And I just have to do what, bit by bit. I'll do my part, and that should be good. It's kind of what I
It's
told myself.
amazing. Wow, it must have been quite an experience to plant all those tiny trees. I did that in Boy Scouts. It was fun. And now these
Yeah,
trees are like, did I really plant that one? Wow.
yeah,
Yeah,
and it makes a difference. Yeah.
it's amazing. Yeah. Um, so I want to ask you, this is a fun question I'm going to ask. So, you familiar with that movie Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, where they were supposed to find and create and sing this song, which was supposed to bring universal harmony? Do you think it's possible that there's a song out there that would just bring everyone together?
Oh, possibly. Yeah, I hope so. Music has that power, it's
Yeah.
incredible. It was
Hmm.
is what they prove with patients with dementia and things in the UK. That I worked with music for dementia in the UK for a while as well. and because it does have such a powerful
Hmm.
effect on your brain. So I mean, there must be some kind of tune or melody that could like, bring everyone together. And yeah, I do believe that. I think music is so powerful. It's a
Hmm.
reason they use music in films and things like that to really
Yeah.
set the mood, because it really draws on your heartstrings, your emotions, your brain, everything, kind of your chemistry. It's there, and sometimes you don't even notice it, but the sneakily there to kind of help the audience through and guide them in a sense, and guide them where they want to go. Yeah, music is incredibly powerful.
It is. So you had leading roles in opera and musical theater. I remember you were talking about that. So do these
Yeah.
experiences compare to your solo career? How do they compare to them?
Um. Well, uh, in some ways, playing leading roles is kind of the same thing, because I would find sometimes it would be quite lonely. There have been shows where if you're the lead, the ensemble get to do all the fun numbers where they're dancing and singing together, and then you come out and you have to sing a song on your own, or you do a scene with another person. Like it can be quite lonely in that sense, but um being on stage, I mean, it's a different thing. It's a different animal. When you're in a playing a part, you're that part. You're in a production, you don't feel like you're in charge of, you're not responsible for whether or not the audience love it or hate it, because you're part of a production.
Hmm.
Whereas when you do your own thing, when you're on stage, you've created the show, you've come up with the arrangements, it's you on stage. That's more scary, I think, because it's if they don't like it basically feels like they don't like you. you know so it is kind of, it's a little bit more pressure when you're the one on stage creating. And also there's a way to talk to an audience, and you need to learn that. It takes years to come up with like an onstage persona where you feel
Hmm.
comfortable talking to people.
Hmm.
Because when you're playing a part, you're just reading script. You just memorize something. You do the same thing night after night. You try to keep a little bit fresh with your actors, but pretty much you're delivering the same thing, and you should deliver the same thing every night because that's what the producers want. So it's a very different thing. It's a very different. But in some ways, the ways they are similar, like I said, is probably depends on the role you be playing, whether or not you're on stage on your own lot, or if you're having fun doing big dance numbers. I don't know.
That's true. I really want to ask the next question, but you know what? I think Amy has a kicker one here. Number 8, Amy. I think
Okay.
she'll love this one.
Who's an artist, classical or modern, you would love to share the stage with, and what song would you perform with them together?
Oh my gosh, I really want to sing with Andrea Bocelli,
Mm.
Oh,
mainly because, and I know a lot of people will probably say that, but the reason I think so is because he of the emotion in his voice, and because he can't see. I remember there was once a time, I think he was describing Christina Aguilera. I want to think it was someone
Hmm.
like that, and he just thought, "Oh, I want to sing with her because she has such emotion in her voice," and that really stuck with me, because
mhm.
people say that to me about my singing. So I think that in my head, I'm like, I hope he would like what I do, because that's what I'm about. It's about emoting emotion, and hopefully, I don't know. I think it would sound great. Like it would be nice. But Il Divo, they're also amazing. Um, and yeah, I think it would be a male singer probably. Um, or I also like Renee Fleming a lot.
Hmm.
She's a bit opera
Mm.
star in England. Yeah, so she's fantastic. But yeah, I think the top would probably be Andrea Bocelli right now, and I just think he's got a lovely way to him as well. So I think it would work. I don't know what song we'd sing though. It could be anything. Maybe "Fall on Me." That would be nice. That's a
Oh
good
yeah,
one.
why not? You sing it with them, and
Yeah.
you that'd be great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because he's done it. He's done it with his son, but not with
yeah.
another, with not with a female singer. I don't think. But yeah.
I think it'd be pretty good. Sound pretty good with that collaboration. So anybody comes up to you and it's like, I mean, what advice would you give to a young singer hoping to break into classical crossover music?
Oh, don't take no for an answer, but also if it's a no, there's always another way around it. So I wouldn't just, with anything in life, if you think it's not working out, sometimes there's just another way to get there. So especially in an industry, the music industry and the theater industry and everything, it can be incredibly unfair, and it's so easy to just throw in the towel and go, this is too hard. But if you've got the dedication and you work hard and you believe in yourself and you believe you can do it, then there's always another way around it to get what
Yeah.
you want
Hey.
to do.
Yeah. I should have thought of asking you this when you mentioned about wanting to collaborate with Andrea Bocelli. Are you a firm proponent of AI music? Like, if you could do a duet with David Bowie or something, would you, or no? You'd rather just perform with real people?
Oh,
What's your feelings on that?
I think I'd find that weird. I'd rather perform with real people, I think. It wouldn't feel the same. I wouldn't actually go, "Hey, that's David Bowie." I don't know. It would feel a bit fake, I think. I don't know.
That's
I
true.
didn't know that was a thing.
It is a lot of AI music. Oh yeah, I've heard a couple of songs by Amy Winehouse. I'm like, wow, why didn't she release these? This is not Amy Winehouse AI. Really? So yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. And he put
the
the
world we
first
live
eight
in.
seconds. Yeah, but the first 8 seconds of "Hey Jude" by the Beatles and an AI, and it completed it 4 times. But it's
Wow.
not even the song. It's just the first 8 seconds, and it just came up with his own melody. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that sounds like Paul McCartney, and it's not. So
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah.
As someone who bridges the worlds of opera and pop, how do you balance staying true to classical technique while also adapting your voice and style for crossover?
I've kind of come up with my own little blend because it also depends on the song. So, like,
Mhm.
I will sing some more classical stuff in my shows because that's what people like as well. Like, I will do some opera and I will do some like classical musical theater, like Bernstein or Phantom of the Opera, things like that that I know people really love, and I love singing as well. So that I will adapt my technique to more classical sound. But if I'm doing something a little bit more contemporary, I'll, for example, remove some of the vibrato, make it sound a bit softer, and
Mm.
play around with the vocal qualities a little bit. But I think that's where my training comes in handy because I did extensive first classical training and then trained in musical theater. But the teachers I had training at drama school were incredible at teaching me all those different tips and tricks because you basically have to be able to you manipulate your voice in different ways to suit different styles of musical theater. So I'm used to that anyway. So I think it just depends on the songs, and I'll kind of adapt as I go along. But yeah.
That's really awesome.
So, from performing live to recording cinematic music videos, your artistry spans so many formats. Is there a particular setting, stage, or studio or screen where you feel most creatively fulfilled?
Definitely being on stage live with an audience. That's where I love being. I mean, I love going to the studio and recording music as well because there's a whole process there, and then
Mhm.
creating, coming up with ideas. But I think ultimately, like, that's the reward when you get to put it on stage and you see people's reaction and you get that back from the audience, and that I think is the biggest, my favorite place to be. That's kind of the reward of or all the hard work you put in with everything else.
I like that. So looking ahead, Nadia, what exciting projects or collaborations are on the horizon for you?
So I just got well, I just had a baby 3 months ago, so I've cut down a lot this year.
Mhm.
So I've kind of but I do a few trips. I've got a lot of concerts in the UK, just singing in big events and things, and then I've got my annual Christmas tour where I tour all over um, England and Wales normally,
Mhm.
um, to all the biggest fanciest cathedrals and abbeys all over. And it's just such a wonderful thing. And that's where I include children's choirs from each and every town and city that I visit. So it gives them the opportunity to sing and yeah, to be on stage in a professional setting at Christmas time, which is so lovely.
That's awesome. Well, really appreciate you being on the podcast with us today. Really appreciate being on it again. Thank you, Amy, for being my co-host. Everyone, everything
You're
along
welcome.
Nadia's social media and music will be linked
Mhm.
down below description. Make sure you follow her, like, and comment on everything. She's really good. Coloratura Soprano. Love it.
Thank you so
So
much.
you're very welcome. Thank you so much, Nadia. Okay. Wait right there, everyone. See everyone. We're going to end the stream. Bye, Nadia.